Now, this futuristic behavior starts in a society where people always think of the future. What will I do? What am I to do tomorrow? What am I to achieve tomorrow? And all these things, when they start doing, their attention goes to the right extreme. Now, in this place, we are very dangerously placed when we start looking for the future. And the future seeing is a imaginary stuff, is absolutely imaginary. Because what you think of the future doesn't exist. What exists is the present. You have to be in the present, not in the future. But people will say you have to be in the present. But how? We cannot. Either we are in the past or in the future. Because when the thought wave rises, it comes up and goes down. Another thought wave rises, goes up and comes down. Now, this thought wave which comes up, we go with it, but we don't see it's going down. Another thought wave that rises, we see that, but we don't see where it goes out. And so we are jumping on the cusp of these thoughts and we do not know. Perhaps we are in the past or perhaps in the future. But in the center of these two thoughts, there is the present. And we don't know how to take our attention there, which is a very difficult thing. And just to say that you should be in the center is not possible. All these things, you should do this, you should do that, is not going to work out unless and until there is light. For example, there is no light in this room. And you say, walk straight. You cannot walk because you can't see where is the passage, how to walk. Even if you order, do whatever you please, you cannot just walk straight without touching any of these chairs because there is no light, you can't see. So, one has to understand that in the futuristic life when we live, when we plan too much for the future, actually what we are doing, we are living in an imaginary world. We have many stories of people who lived in imaginary worlds and how they found that everything was destroyed. And there are people who work it out through their physical efforts, and when they go into their physical efforts, they create another problem for them because they just become physically oriented people. And if you are just physically oriented, the spirit gets angry. So the right side movement is for the people who are very meticulous, you see, which you can call the people who are very particular about the time, who are very firm about things, who are very dry people, and who are very straight and they won't tolerate any nonsense. That sort of people, you see, that you find normally, and that sort of people become a headache and they are very boring. You can't just bear their company, they can be very boring people. And they give you big lectures about how to be straightforward and how to walk straight, absolutely. In the nature, nothing is straight. It all moves so beautifully because the nature is created out of varieties. And variety brings the beauty. They don't think of beauty, they don't think of love or compassion, nothing. For them, it is a very meticulous world, and that's how they live. Such people are developing a big ego within themselves, as you see there. Is a yellow stuff in the head called as ego. Let me show. Right. By the action of the left side, emotional side, we develop a superego, but by the action of the right side, we develop an ego. Now this ego is not easy to be seen because if you have a superego, you have pains in the body, you are a miserable person, you have wrinkles on the face, and you look absolutely worn out. But if you have ego, then you look so dynamic. Who are right-sided. They are very aggressive. They may be very good to talk to. They may be very humble to look at. Could be very good businessmen. Could be anything. But they do not know that they have this Mr. Ego coming up on their heads, just like a big balloon, and they are floating in the air. The end of ego is stupidity. You will be surprised. The end of ego is stupidity. Such people indulge into all kinds of stupid things and they say, what's wrong? For example, I've known old people behaving in so stupid ways and they say, what's wrong? You know, an old man, say, of 90 years who can't even walk without a stake. Stakes to these dances you do, and then he falls down. You see? And he thinks, what's wrong? Like a lady I knew, she was about 85. She died from a horse falling down. Naturally, what else do you expect? perfect at 85. That's what is evident. For a lady of 85, she should settle down at home, look after her grandchildren. Maybe she might have great-grandchildren, you see. Instead of that, why does she want to be 25-year-old lady to climb on a horse? So all such stupid things they do, and then they will say, what's wrong? There's nothing wrong in stupidity. What's wrong? But such people are a nuisance to the society, to others. The people who are superego are troublesome to themselves. But those are egoistical are troublesome to others. They are all the time correcting others, torturing others, putting their ideas onto other people. And such people can be very, very successful because nothing succeeds like success. They go on hammering things into the heads of people, saying, now, this is true, this is true. And when you go on saying it, you should suddenly believe, yes, must be so. And such people are much more dangerous, I would say, from the superego type. But for people who do not know the tricks of the superego, they can be very, very, very dangerous because they are very subtle. You cannot see them. They mesmerize and they can possess you, and they can be very sly, and they can work out all sorts of methods which you are not aware of. So it is not easy to choose which is better, which is not better. Both things are wrong to go to extremes on the right or to the left. Now let's see what happens physically. As I told about the cancer on the left hand side that we do. Physically, what happens to people who are futuristic? We have a center especially for futuristic behavior called as Swadhisthana Chakra, which is in the gross manifesting the plexus called the aortic plexus within us. Now this Swadhisthana Chakra is very important for human beings, especially for people who are developed. With this chakra, actually, we convert the fat of the stomach for the use of the brain. Now this is the center of the Surya, of the sun. Now when we start thinking, these cells are converted in such a way that they become useful to the brain. Now if you are thinking all the time you are thinking, then what will happen? I mean, the horns are not going to grow out of that. You are consuming all that. And when you are consuming all those cells, you have to have replacement. And for that replacement, this Swadhisthana Chakra has to work very hard to convert the cells for the use of your brain. Now, when it is doing that, there are other things which this Swadhisthana Chakra has to look after. For example, your liver, your pancreas, your spleen, your kidneys, all are to be looked after by this center, and also uterus for the ladies. Now, when there's only one work is given to this Swadhisthana Chakra, and it cannot do any other work, then other things are neglected, so you develop a terrible disease called liver trouble. Now, liver trouble is another thing that you do not feel yourself. Others know that you are liverish, the way you are hot-tempered, the way you are fussy, the way you always snarl at people, and the way you are never satisfied with anything, the way you criticize others. All this is liverish, and such liverish people are never happy with themselves because liver looks after their attention. And those who have liver problems, their attention is horrid. That goes like this. See, you cannot keep your attention straight. On the street, you will walk straight into a car because you are looking at something which you are not supposed to look. But all the time you are looking at like this, you cannot walk. I mean, you won't find any animal like that who walks like this, but only human beings do it. If you see them on the street, you'll be amazed, where are they walking? They don't walk straight. They don't walk straight, but their eyes are going this way, that way, because the attention is wobbly. The attention is wobbly because of a bad liver. So this liver is a very, very important thing. Now this liver has a special capacity to extract all the poisons from the body as heat. And the heat in the body is to be transformed or should be conveyed to the blood or the water in the blood. And that has to be taken out of your body, maybe as perspiration or in another forms. But what happens? That when this liver is out of gear, it cannot do it. It cannot pass this heat into the bloodstream, and the heat remains in the body, and you really become heated, and that heat makes all these problems for you. So in Sahaja Yoga, what happens that when Kundalini rises, she changes the form of the blood. The hydrogen and oxygen which are placed because of this heat and all that in a very funny way, like this, like that, and they start receiving this heat within them. That's why those people who have bad livers feel little heat when the Kundalini rises. But one can cure it by giving it that peace and comfort to that liver organ, and you can definitely cure your liver, no doubt about it. Then the second thing that happens to you is the pancreas, which gives you diabetes. Only a person who thinks too much gets the diabetes. For example, an Indian farmer doesn't know what diabetes is, but then you stop your sugar. But that's not the way to stop your diabetes. Diabetes comes to you because you think too much. The doctors won't understand this. That's why they say it is incurable. But because they cannot connect thinking with the disease. And this is what happens when you are all the time thinking like mad, then diabetes takes place. And this diabetes is also curable if you get your enlightenment. You can cure also the diabetes of other people, but because this vital power, which is integrated of all these three powers, flows through you, and you can replenish, you can give more to other people who are exhausted of it, and sort of you can fill them up with this power, and you can cure. The third one is the worst of all that happens to people is blood cancer because of spleen. Spleen is one thing very important, that it is the center of peace within us. The one who doesn't have a proper spleen cannot be a peaceful person. Now, it's a very simple thing, but doctors cannot connect it, nor all science-oriented people can connect it to something very, very simple. Now, this trouble of kidney, of high blood pressure, all that is due to this. People worry, they are frantic, you see, and this franticness comes to us just as a matter of habit. I have known people, as soon as you say, oh, you have to go by aeroplane or somewhere, suddenly the aeroplane word triggers that frantic, oh, and they get mad. They don't know what they are up to. They will forget their passport, they will forget their luggage, they will forget this, that. Frantic. At the airport, if you go, you'll find this left navi, as we call it, this center is the spleen was frantic. Now, when you eat your food or do any such work, there is an emergency created and more blood is needed to digest that food. So this spleen, poor thing, works very hard to create that extra amount of blood cells. But at the time you are eating, you are also reading a newspaper. That's the worst thing one should do in the morning. Horrible. You read the newspaper, you are eating the food, the spleen goes off because another emergency comes up. Then you get onto your bicycle, eat a sandwich in the hand, it's even worse than that. And you are rushing to your work, suddenly you find a big jam on the way, then you are even very badly placed with the situation and you get so frantic and you don't understand. And the person who is in front of you goes on saying, oh, what's wrong with this fellow? Why can't he drive fast? And the same fellow is saying something exactly the same to the another fellow who is going ahead. So this mad race is on, this rat race is on, and if you are eating your food in such a hurry and in such franticness, you develop this trouble, which is very dangerous, called as blood cancer, and among young people is very common. Now, the last and not the least is the trouble of the heart. When you pay too much attention to all these outward things, to material things, to your all material advancement, to your physical advancement, and to so much of computerization of your brain, then you neglect the necessary attention to your spirit, which resides in your heart. And so the spirit receives. And when the spirit receives, you get a heart attack. Only a person who is right-sided gets a heart attack, and never a person who is a left-sided. I told this to a doctor, and he told surprisingly that in a mental hospital, we never need a cardiogram. We do not need it. They never get a heart attack. A mad man never gets a heart attack, surprisingly. A person who is mad is using his heart, his left side, his emotions, and his heart should go out. But no, his brain goes out. Can you imagine? And the one who uses the brain, his heart goes out. This is the balance created by nature in us. See how cleverly the nature is trying to guide us in the center. Don't go to the extremes. Keep to the center. Keep to the center. And then when you are absolutely in the center, then you get your evolution very quickly. So this is the right side that we have, the futuristic side, and as you know, we are all very futuristic by temperament. This futuristicness cannot be cured by telling, oh, now don't think. You cannot do it. You just cannot do it. If I order you that now you better stop planning, you just can't do it. You can't help it. You have to do that kind of plan. Spirit, when you get the highest, all these mundane things drop out and you become a master of yourself. No more enslavement of any habits or anything. It just works out beautifully. But one must give a chance to oneself and one must have patience. The worst part of intelligence, so-called, is that you can make fun of everything. That's the easiest way to make fun of everything and get rid of it. It requires more effort, so it's better to make fun. It's stupidity, again, as I said. It's stupidity to make fun of something. Because you are that. You are the spirit. You are the one who has to get it. And if you just know how to make fun, please go and play about with it. All your life will go on, all your lives will go on. What's the use? And if you do not get your realization, in the words of your judgment, you have failed. You have failed and there is a chance given to you. You can be comforted, and you can be counseled, you can be redeemed. But nobody can make you taste the beauty of your own being, that you have to do it yourself. If you do not want to do it, all right, it's perfectly all right. You are free to do it, do what you like. But if you want to do it, then please stop your guru shopping and wobbling. Stop and see for yourself what you need. It's a serious thing we should have. Unless and until human beings are evolved, none of the problems of the world are going to be solved.